Hey guys, welcome to the second half of our EdPuzzles on ancient Greece. So where we left off, the first half of our unit was really describing how Greece got started. So we talked about the Minoans, the Mycenaeans, and the Dorians. And then later on we talked about the polises and how they got started with citizenship and so on. And we said that in Greece, as it's developing, two powerful city-states really make up Greece, plus some smaller ones. All right, so as Greece is developing, Greece is developing with all different city-states that are all extremely independent from each other, and that's going to cause problems for Greece in the future. Now, if we look at Greece, Greece is not the only area that's expanding at this time. Their neighboring areas are also expanding. So if we look off to the east, there's an empire that is also growing, and that empire is Persia. And Persia is going to give Greece kind of a run for its money as time goes on. So if we look at Persia today, Persia is an area in Southeast Asia that is going to start, expanding. Okay, so during the same time period of Greece, Persia is also expanding to build this really large empire. Okay, so Southeast Asia, Southwest Asia, in this area of the world, we're looking at the countries of like Iran, Iraq, is next to Turkey and so forth. Now, the early Persians were very similar to Greece. So a lot of them farmed, they were cattle herders, and they also had a large military, a group of warriors that really expanded the land. Okay, so as they settle and expand their land, they're going to create an empire, and their leaders are going to be kings. Okay, so we looked at Sparta, they had an oligarchy, Athens had a democracy. Persia is going to have an empire with a dynasty of kings, so one king after another. Okay, and it was really a guy named Cyrus the Great that made Persia what it was. Now, if we look at the title Cyrus the Great, that's obviously not his full name. The Great's not his last name. But leaders that received this title, and we're going to see a lot of them actually this year. So we have Cyrus the Great, Peter the Great, Catherine the Great. Okay, that phrase, the Great, simply means that during that leader's rule, they took over a whole bunch of land, making their area of land very great, very big. Okay, so leaders that tend to take over a lot of land very quickly, they receive this title. So Cyrus the Great is one of the kings in Persia that made Persia really this really large empire. And he is going to be the ruler around 500 BC. Okay, Cyrus the Great, we're going to notice that he's not only great in expanding land, but he was really a good leader in Persia. So he builds this powerful army, and he builds this empire. It's the largest empire at this time in the world, even larger than what Greece was. Okay, so if we look at the 500s, okay, BC, when he's ruling, the Persians are going to conquer a whole bunch of land, right? So they're going to conquer an area called Mesopotamia, which is current-day Turkey, Syria, an area called Judah, and they also conquered some of the Greek city-states in Anatolia. Remember, Greece went out to find land, okay, across the Aegean Sea, and they discovered new land in different areas and claimed it as theirs. Well, part of that was connected to the Persian Empire, and Persia is going to take over that. Now, as long as King Cyrus was the leader, King Cyrus is going to say, if I want to keep my land and I want to become leader for a long period of time, okay, he's not going to treat his people poorly. Actually, Cyrus the Great is going to be really nice to these newly conquered areas, because we know that when people are poor and unhappy, what do they tend to do? They rebel, they revolt, okay? And Cyrus the Great realizes this. So instead of being mean to the people and making them slaves like Sparta did, okay, King Cyrus, what he's going to do is actually allow these people to become Persian. He treated them fair. He let them keep their languages and their religions, their own laws. The only thing he wanted to do was own the land. Okay, and when people are like, well, we can keep all our same stuff, we just have this new leader, okay, people are pretty good with this. They are going to be happy under King Cyrus's rule. So as he takes over this land, he's going to look to expand further. So we can see up on this top map that under Cyrus the Great, they really took over a large chunk of land. All right, so after going through Mesopotamia and the Greek city-states, they also conquered Egypt, part of India, and they were in the area of northeast Greece. Okay, so as time goes on, the Persian Empire is going to say, well, where should we go next? Okay, so at this time, Persia is going to be about the same size as the United States, so it's a pretty large chunk of land. Now, if you rule an empire that is this large, okay, you have to organize your empire in a really good way. one thing that King Cyrus decided to do was be able to get to all places of his empire very quickly. So to connect his empire, he's going to do massive projects to build roads. Okay, and these roads are going to go from one end of the empire all the way over to the other. Now there's one road that was even the most important, and it's called the Royal Road. So the Royal Road is about 1,500 miles long, and it went from Anatolia, which is just across from Greece, throughout Persia. Okay, that Royal Road really made trade easier, communication easier, and so on. So if we look at how this road improved life, okay, travelers are going to go across this road, and people are going to start setting up like marketplaces, areas where they could get new food. They could feed their horses. They could stop for the night. I compare them to like gas stations. If you go on a long ride, a lot of times your parents will stop for gas, at a gas station for a quick bite to eat, and then travel on their way. So in Persia, they also had like these makeshift marketplaces all along the Royal Road. Okay, if we look at how much the Royal Road helped Persia, okay, messengers could go across the Royal Road in about 7 days. So they could travel this amount of distance in 7 days, which is pretty remarkable given the time period we're in. Before the Royal Road, it would take them about 3 months. Okay, remember, roads clear pathways through an empire. Before that, they would have to go over mountainsides, through woods, and all these distractions that would make their traveling more difficult. Now, if we look at a large empire, usually the downfall to a large empire is that it's large. Okay, it's really hard to control, okay, a really large piece of land because your king is in one spot. So how can you control all these people under a 1,500-mile radius? Okay, that's difficult. All right, so if we look at Persia, this is the area that we're looking at. So we can see Greece off to the left-hand side of the photo. Okay, so we have Greece, which is actually relatively small in size, and then Persia is all of the orange in the area that they controlled. The Royal Road, that 1,500 road, is the area in red. Okay, so it went from Anatolia, which is next to Greece, all the way down to almost the Persian Gulf. So with these large empires, they're going to have to figure out, well, how can we organize it? So after Cyrus passed away, a new king is going to rule, and his name is King Darius the First. So he's going to say, well, I have to reorganize my empire to make it more efficient. I can't be everywhere, so what am I going to do instead? So King Darius decided to divide the empire up into satrapies. Okay, satrapies is kind of a funny word, but if you think of the United States, our president's in Washington, D.C., no way can he manage all the laws and the people across our land. Okay, so our country is broke up into states, and each state has a governor. Okay, and that governor takes care of their state, and all governors report back to the president. Okay, Darius the First organized the Persian Empire in the exact same way, just using different terms. Okay, so he's going to divide the empire into satrapies. Satrapies are simply just states in Persia. Okay, so each satrapy is going to have a leader. So their leader is going to be a governor. Okay, but in Persia, they're not going to use the word governor. They're going to use the word satrap. Okay, so if we look at Persia, it's broken into satrapies, all led by the satrap. Okay, if we looked at Greece, they divided their area into polises, and each polis had their own noble or leader. Okay, very similar story, just different wording for it. Now, satraps are very similar to like what our governors do. Okay, they're going to watch over their state. They're going to collect taxes. They're going to have judges. They're going to manage the people in their area. They're also going to recruit soldiers to be a part of the Persian army. So each satrapy is going to give soldiers to fight for all of Persia, which is different than Greece, remember, who mostly had citizen armies except for Sparta. So as we look at the Persian Empire, their army is a full-time professional army. We could compare that to what Sparta had. They were trained soldiers. Athens and many other city-states, remember, only had those citizens' armies, and they weren't technically trained. They would only come together in the time of crisis or in the time of conflict. Okay, so in Persia, they have trained soldiers, but they also have a group of people called the Immortals. The Immortals were the best soldiers that Persia had. The best soldiers that Persia had, their job is to protect the king, okay, because the king is the most important person in the empire. Okay, so the Immortals were about the size of about 10,000 really well-trained troops. Okay, and the reason they're called the Immortals, if one of them passed away, okay, or died in the time of combat or something, okay, they're going to have another soldier step up and fill their place immediately. So they always have 10,000 soldiers around that king protecting them. And I think we're going to stop here because we are at 10 minutes. So I'm going to try to keep the videos a little shorter this time. Okay, so I'll see you in the next bit.